So, Johnny, inflation. What sort of investments could be a reasonable hedge?
Well, it's interesting that there's two schools of thought as to whether inflation is actually going to be a problem. Given the gargantuan sums of money that's been pumped into the global economy, inflation potentially is ripe to take off as too much money is chasing too few goods, which is one of the classic definitions. But we've also seen the potential end of hyper globalization, whereby manufacturing has been put in various other countries, whereby the cost of labour is much, much cheaper. Therefore, the deflationary pressures that we've seen over the last 30, 40 years could be coming to an end. But with the unemployment and recession looming, we've now got more and more people that are looking for jobs which actually should be a deflationary pressure. Interestingly, real assets such as equities and properties have proved to be a very good inflation protector over a period of time. So if inflation does take off, maybe those could actually be seen as a good hedge. Index-linked gilts clearly will actually track inflation one-to-one, so that's an obvious thing. We're also seeing a lot of interest in cryptos, and people are actually saying that cryptocurrencies are a way to actually protect inflation, Bitcoin being the obvious one, because it's restricted to the amount of actual Bitcoins that will ever be produced. But the jury is still very much out on that. One of the oldest homes for inflation protection has got to be gold. And it seems that one of the most successful investors in modern times, William Buffett, has finally relinquished his sort of negativity and adverse desires around gold. And he's actually just recently put in $500 million into Barrick Gold. But bear in mind, he does look after 500 billion, so it's a relatively small sum. But interesting nevertheless to see that he's actually putting money into gold, while at the same time selling off bank stocks such as Goldman's and Wells Fargo, JP Morgan. So as with all investors, there's always the naysayers, there's always the people saying, well, the only reason he's buying gold is because actually it's a small investment. But without a doubt, we are seeing the potential for inflation to take off, in which case people obviously need to pay attention, because if inflation does take off, interest rates could rise, and that would have a huge impact on all the debt. But please remember, we're not trying to give investment advice. We're simply trying to point out some of the opportunities and things people might like to consider now ahead of taking any advice from their financial advisor.